Oh man. Oh man. That was awesome. What happens when a legend just vanishes? When a huge franchise, one that helped define a console, simply disappears? For over a decade, that was the story of Twisted Metal, a titan of the PlayStation. A franchise that was left to rot in a digital aether. But a new title has arrived, and from probably one of the most unlikely places. It wasn't built by a billion-dollar corporation, but by the very fans who were left behind. Fans that saw the need to resurrect one of the many cadavers of the gaming industry. A passionate community trying to put Twisted Metal back on the throne and reminding the world what made the series so special. To understand why a fan revival is even necessary, you have to go back to the beginning. The year is 1995. The Sony PlayStation is a brand new console, and Sony is hurting for its killer apps. Out of this creative explosion comes a game that isn't quite a racer, it's not quite a shooter, it's both. Twisted Metal was a demolition derby from hell, a vehicular combat game that was dark, chaotic, and impossibly fun. The idea was simple. A mysterious and powerful man named Calypso hosts a violent tournament. He takes the most unhinged drivers in the world, and with their weaponized vehicles, they're unleashed into deadly arenas all around the world. And the last one standing gets their wish granted. But the way these games play out is more like needful things. Calypso is the master of irony. For the most part, each wish turns into a punishment. The first Twisted Metal was a huge commercial success for PlayStation, becoming one of their first greatest hits. But it was the sequel, Twisted Metal 2, that many fans and critics consider the absolute peak of the series. Releasing in 1996, it took the action on a world tour, expanding the roster, refining the gameplay, and cranking the chaos up to 11. It had style, it had personality, and it had some of the most addictive multiplayer of its generation. The franchise was a sensation, one of PlayStation's most recognizable exclusives, and a true titan of its time. For a while, it seemed like the carnage would never end. So what happened? Where did it all go wrong? The truth is, Twisted Metal didn't die in a single explosive crash. It was more like a slow, grinding decline, a death by 1,000 cuts, all caused by creative shifts, a changing market, and corporate hesitation. One of the series' biggest problems was consistency. After the massive success of Twisted Metal 2, the original development team at SingleTrack parted ways with Sony. The series was handed to an in-house studio, 989 Studios, for Twisted Metal 3 and 4. And while those games found a respectable audience, many die-hard fans felt like something was off. The physics felt floaty, the tone was different, and the original magic just wasn't quite there. Despite this, the original creators did come back to reboot the series in 2001 with Twisted Metal Black for the PlayStation 2. This entry was a dark, gritty, and psychologically disturbing game. I made a video recently on when games were dark and gritty and pretty edgy, and that shit right here. This game was fucking wild. And this ended up being a lot of people's favorite in the series. Interestingly enough, just a few months later, the series swung in the complete opposite direction with Small Brawl, a cartoony take for younger audiences. A few years later, they came back in 2005 with Head On. Stylistically and narratively, this would be the spiritual successor to Twisted Metal 2. The franchise was constantly in a spiral, changing its mask, torn between being goofy and colorful or dark and edgy. A single-player story or a multiplayer battleground. It never seemed to land on one consistent identity. As the 2000s wore on, the market itself was moving on. The entire vehicular combat genre was basically gone. Gamers were flocking to huge open-world titles and online military shooters. A game like Twisted Metal was becoming a lot harder to sell. Sony's last big attempt to revive the series came in 2012 with a reboot for the PlayStation 3. It had moments of brilliance, and it tried to modernize the formula with a focus on online play. But its launch ended up getting hammered by a mixed reception, technical problems, shitty balancing where to this day hasn't been fixed, and the most crucial part for Sony, it seemed it didn't really sell well enough to justify a sequel. For Sony, making a modern Twisted Metal game is an expensive gamble. It requires complex physics, destructible environments, and robust online matchmaking. After the 2012 reboot failed to set the world on fire, Sony seemingly decided the investment wasn't worth the risk. The franchise was never officially canceled, it just went silent, left to rot. So, for more than a decade, there's been no new games, and a massive void was left where one of gaming's most chaotic franchises used to be. The community of fans, however, never went away. They kept their old games alive on emulators and modern consoles, filled forums with wishful thinking, and held out hope that Sony would one day hear their pleas. And clearly, interest in the brand never fully died. A live-action TV show was made on Peacock, and it found a solid audience and was praised as one of the streamer's most binged comedy premieres, which means it had at least 12 people watching it. There was some buzz around a new live service game being developed to tie into the show, but that fizzled out. A lot of the reports ended up claiming that the project was canceled amid all the layoffs at Sony recently. The message, intended or not, seemed pretty clear. There will be no new Twisted Metal game. With the official and licensed pipeline for getting a new Twisted Metal game seemingly closing for the near future, fans of the series were left with one simple answer. You build your own. And these aren't modern remakes or live service reboots, they're love letters. They're projects built from the ground up to feel like lost sequels to the franchise's golden era on the original PlayStation. And this wasn't born out of a market analysis or corporate synergy, but from pure, unadulterated passion. They represent the ultimate fan dream. If the company won't make the game, we will. These developers have worked for years releasing updates, taking community feedback, and pouring countless hours into projects with no financial reward, driven solely by their love for the franchise. And that's where we get to Twisted Metal 5, a fan-made continuation of the original series. And Angel and the rest of the dev team really understood what made the series special. The devs have captured the tone of the original series almost perfectly. They understood the colorfulness and the comedy, and they understood that the dark, cynical setting was more of an undertone. The game genuinely feels like Twisted Metal 2 with updated physics, modern controls, and better balancing. And the game is absolutely riddled with Easter eggs and characters that are just homages to the series. And even before you unlock any characters, the roster is massive. And once you start getting the rest of the characters, and when you find out that every single boss character is playable, it really blows the door wide open. Their ability to capture the PS1 era aesthetic with menus, character art, and soundtracks that blend some of the synth and metal and industrial from the early 90s all the way up to the late 2000s. There's even some Waking the Cadaver thrown in there. That's right. I noticed, and while no one who's watching this right now knows what the fuck I'm talking about, that's okay. And beyond the artistic design, the developers really focused on the game feel. The driving is weighty but responsive, the weapons are satisfying and chaotic, and the combat strikes that perfect balance between skill and pure mayhem. It even recaptures some of the tension that made the original so compelling. That desperate search for a health pickup, the thrill of landing a perfect special attack, all of this painstakingly crafted with balance in mind. And all of the things that made the original games feel so special are present here. You get that and then some. This game isn't pure imitation either. The sheer volume of content and the level of fan service is unrivaled. And with the unique storyline, the brand new characters, brand new maps, and a brand new tournament, Twisted Metal 5 is the game that asks, what if? And then it delivers on that promise with overwhelming passion. The story of these fan games is a testament to a community that refuses to give up on a franchise they love, and it makes me want to ask you all, What is your favorite memory from the Twisted Metal series? Is there a character or a level that has always stuck with you? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're tired of listening to me ramble on about the game, all the links you need to try the game for free will be in the description. So what does the existence of this fan project represent? It's more than just a fan game. It's a powerful statement. It's proof that a franchise isn't just an intellectual property sitting on a shelf. It's a living community. And it's a demonstration that sometimes the people who understand a series best aren't in a boardroom, but in the forums and the late night coding sessions. One fan was praised for doing more for this series than Sony has done since 2012. These fan works succeeded because they're not trying to chase trends. They're not trying to be the next Battle Royale or the next live service ecosystem. He's just passionate, focused, authentic, and he's recreating the exact experience that made millions fall in love with the series in the first place. Whether Sony will ever officially resurrect Twisted Metal remains to be seen. But in the meantime, the fans have taken the wheel. They've fired up the engines, loaded the weapons, and proven that even when a legend goes dormant, the spirit can and will live on. The tournament, it seems, is far from over.
There are no typical murderers. Some plan their crimes meticulously, while others kill on impulse.